In the 7 years since it was first announced, Cyberpunk 2077 has generated a monumental amount of hype, in part by looking awesome in everything that's been shown so far, but also by being developed by the makers of the incredible Witcher RPG series. That developer, CD Projekt Red, has managed to keep our interest peaked by being very tight-lipped about what's in store. However, Cyberpunk is far from an unknown quantity. Here is everything we know about Cyberpunk 2077 as of the middle of 2020.
Cover! Find cover!
Cyberpunk 2077 is a single-player open-world RPG with real-time combat which is seen almost entirely from a first-person perspective, with the rare exception of a few third-person cutscenes. You'll take on the role of a character known as V, but unlike Geralt of Rivia in the Witcher games, V is totally customizable, from stats and perks to their backstory or life path, and of course appearance, which lets you adjust everything from hair color all the way down to buttocks and genitalia. As the title would suggest, a major element in cyberpunk culture is body modification, cybernetic and otherwise, so expect character customization to be an ongoing thing. Just like in the Deus Ex series, upgrades to V's implants will affect gameplay, whether you're installing high-tech robotic eyeballs that help you aim your guns better, or a translator chip that opens up new dialogue options by making V fluent in a new language faster than you can say Rosetta Stone. In Cyberpunk 2077, it seems like many features we're accustomed to unlocking via menu screens could be applied more organically within the world thanks to the post-human setting. Meanwhile, street cred is an actual in-game stat, so picking out a cool outfit will do more than just make you look like a badass, it'll make NPCs treat you like one too. It sounds like how Fallout lets you boost your charisma stat with a cool hat, right? You might even have to make tough choices about whether to prioritize style or various combat resistances when deciding what not to wear. Would you rather die or look like a dork? That's the real question. CD Projekt Red's game is based on the 30-year-old pen-and-paper role-playing game Cyberpunk 2020, and the developers have been working closely with the original creator, Mike Pondsmith, to adapt the existing lore and rule set of the analog experience into a modern blockbuster video game. So if you're hungry for deep-cut lore, there's a stack of sourcebooks out there you can familiarize yourself with right now to get a head start, but given how much time has passed in-universe between Cyberpunk 2020 and 2077, the team at CDPR has had plenty of world-building of their own to do. Even die-hard fans of the original Cyberpunk will almost certainly have plenty of surprises. The overarching plot of the main campaign is still shrouded in mystery, but it seems like a major factor is the chip embedded in V's head. That sliver of silicon contains the digitized ghost of legendary rocker boy Johnny Silverhand. Johnny is a key figure in the original RPG, but even if you aren't up on your history, you'll probably instantly want to hang out with him because in Cyberpunk 2077, he's played by one Mr. Keanu Reeves. You may know him from such classic cyberpunk films as The Matrix, Johnny Mnemonic, or Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
No way!
But you can expect way more than a few hastily muttered celebrity one-liners. Keanu spent 15 days recording lines at CD Projekt Red's studio, and as a result, Johnny allegedly has more dialogue than any other character in the game, other than yours, of course. Aside from getting comfortable with this posthumous cybernetic stowaway sidekick, V will have to navigate relationships between Night City's numerous factions. On street level, that means tussling with gangs like, say, the Animals, who are a bunch of steroid-addled bodybuilders, or Maelstrom, whose body modifications are of a more high-tech variety. But on a larger scale, Night City is ruled by massive global corporations that manufacture everything and wield more control over people's day-to-day lives than the government. If The Witcher 3 is any indication, we're in for a substantial main campaign, but CD Projekt Red promises a wide variety of street story side quests on top of that, around 75 of them in fact. The team working on all that content is around 5 times larger than the one that built The Witcher 3's optional adventures, so we can expect them to be pretty meaty. At a glance, Cyberpunk's combat might look like straightforward first-person gunplay, but you can expect there to be more than one way to tackle your objectives. Depending on whether you choose to lean into combat or less confrontational skills like stealth and hacking, it seems like you'll have plenty of opportunities to talk your way out of tight situations. In terms of geographic scale, CDPR has estimated that Cyberpunk 2077 might be a bit smaller than The Witcher 3 in terms of square mileage, but acreage isn't everything. Night City is a densely packed urban metropolis as opposed to a medieval fantasy countryside, and that means we can expect a lot of towering skyscrapers that are potentially cities unto themselves. Of course, there will also be some wilderness areas. The Badlands on the outskirts of Night City are a drought-ravaged wasteland plagued by raiders. Either way, the team has put an emphasis on giving us an extremely detailed world to explore, and what we've seen so far suggests they might be telling the truth there. While Geralt's beloved steed Roach has left 4 big horseshoes to fill, Cyberpunk 2077 will have a stable of high-tech motor vehicles to get you from point A to point B in this sprawling dystopia. Expect to cruise around in everything from motorcycles inspired by Akira to kit-bashed muscle cars that pay homage to Mad Max. One thing CDPR has been very open about is Cyberpunk 2077's lack of microtransactions. Like The Witcher 3, there will be substantial free DLC updates post-launch and eventually some larger-scale paid expansions, likely akin to The Witcher 3's Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine DLC. And there's also talk of Cyberpunk 2077 multiplayer down the road, but don't expect to see that until 2022 at the very earliest. So there you have it, a crash course in what to expect from Cyberpunk 2077. Undoubtedly, we will all know a whole lot more when CD Projekt Red shows even more in the scheduled Night City Wire presentation, and from there it's just a matter of counting down the days when this game finally comes out. What kind of character will your first run as V be? Let us know in the comments, and for everything else we find out about Cyberpunk 2077 before and after its launch, stay jacked in to IGN.